You have felt a quiet ache inside you, a longing without a name, a silence that does not rest. You thought it was weakness. What if it is the beginning of your awakening? There comes a moment in every soul's journey when the weight of the world settles upon your shoulders like the evening mist upon the mountains. You wake each morning, and the very act of opening your eyes feels like lifting stones. The coffee grows cold in your hands as you stare through windows at a world that moves with such urgency while your spirit whispers for stillness. You are tired, yes, but not in the way that sleep can heal. You are tired in the way that ancient trees grow weary of standing, in the way that rivers tire of their endless flowing toward the sea. This tiredness is not your enemy, though the world will tell you it is weakness. The world speaks in languages of productivity and achievement, of climbing and conquering, of filling every silence with noise and every pause with purpose. But your soul speaks in older tongues, in the language of the desert wind that knows when to blow and when to rest, in the wisdom of the seed that knows when to break open and when to remain buried in the dark earth, gathering strength. You are not broken because you cannot match the pace of those around you. You are not failing because their dreams feel foreign in your mouth. You are not lost because their paths lead to destinations your heart does not recognize. You are becoming too vast for your old life. Listen now to what your tiredness is truly saying. Beneath the exhaustion lies a deeper wisdom. The way beneath winter's barren surface lies the promise of spring. Your weariness is the soul's way of saying that what you have been carrying was never yours to carry. The expectations that weigh upon you like chains, the roles that fit you like ill-sized clothes, the dreams that others planted in your garden and called your own, these are the burdens that create the ache you feel in your bones. There is a story the desert tells to those who listen. A man walked for years carrying water for others, his back bent beneath the weight of countless vessels, his feet bleeding from the endless journey. One day, too tired to take another step, he collapsed beneath a date palm. As he lay there, certain he was dying, he heard the sound of water, not in the vessels he carried, but beneath him. He had been walking over a spring all along, carrying water to others while dying of thirst above the very source he sought. Your pain is the soft hand that shapes your awakening. The tiredness you feel is not a signal to carry more or try harder. It is not a call to fill your days with greater urgency or your nights with restless planning. It is the gentle hand of your inner knowing, touching you on the shoulder, whispering that the time has come to stop walking over your own spring and learn to drink from the waters that flow within. You have been taught that rest is earned, that peace must be achieved, that contentment lies at the end of some distant journey. But what if I told you that the very tiredness you feel is the doorway to a different way of being? What if the exhaustion that makes you want to surrender is actually your spirit's way of preparing you to receive what cannot be grasped by effort alone? In the deepest fatigue, there is a stillness that no amount of activity can provide. In the moment when you can no longer pretend to be who you are not, there is an honesty that no performance can match. In the space where your old ways of being collapse, there is room for something truer to emerge. The oak tree does not apologize for shedding its leaves when autumn comes. The mountain does not feel shame for wearing clouds like veils when it needs to rest from the sun's constant gaze. The ocean does not rush its tides to satisfy those who wait upon the shore. And you, dear soul, need not apologize for the seasons of your spirit. What you call fear is the shadow of the truth trying to reach you. Your tiredness is not a flaw in your character, but a flaw in the story you have been told about what it means to be human. You have been taught to be a machine that produces, a servant that pleases, a performer that never leaves the stage. But you are not a machine. You are not a servant to every demand. You are not a performer in someone else's play. You are a soul, ancient and mysterious, with rhythms that follow the moon more than the clock, with needs that honor seasons more than schedules. There is a different way to live, one that your tired heart already knows, but your busy mind has forgotten. It is the way of the river that follows its natural course, bending around obstacles rather than fighting them, finding the lowest places and filling them with presence. It is the way of the tree that grows toward light but sends its roots deep into darkness, understanding that both are necessary for true strength. This way requires something that terrifies the world but liberates the soul. It requires that you stop, not forever, not in the way of giving up, but in the way of the farmer who lets the field rest so that it might yield a greater harvest. It requires that you listen to the voice beneath the noise, the one that has been calling your name since birth, but has been drowned out by the demands of others. When you are tired of everything, it is because everything you have been doing comes from a place that is not your true home. The job that drains you, the relationships that require you to be someone you are not, the dreams that feel heavy instead of light, these are not your life. They are the life someone else imagined for you, or the life you thought you should want, or the life you built before you knew who you really were. The soul grows where the world believes you are breaking. But breaking is not always destruction. Sometimes breaking is the way the light gets in. Sometimes breaking is how the seed becomes the flower, how the caterpillar becomes the butterfly, how the false self dies so that the true self can be born. And then you understand that what you feared was never your enemy. It was the doorway asking to be opened. This moment, this tiredness, this feeling that you cannot go on as you have been, this is not your crisis. This is your invitation, not to try harder or want less, but to remember who you were before the world told you who to be. To remember the dreams that came from your heart before others filled your head with their definitions of success. To remember the peace that lives in the center of your being, unmarked by the chaos of circumstance. There is a place within you that has never been tired, never been afraid, never been lost. It is the place from which your truest desires spring like water from stone. It is the place that knows without thinking, loves without condition, rests without guilt. The tiredness you feel is simply the distance between where you are living and where that place calls you to dwell. You do not need to find this place. You need only to stop running from it. You do not need to become worthy of peace. You need only to stop believing you are not. You do not need to earn rest. You need only to remember that rest is your birthright, as natural as breathing, as essential as love. The way forward is not through trying harder, but through surrendering more. Not through adding more to your life, but through subtracting what was never truly yours. Not through becoming someone new, but through removing everything that covers who you have always been. You do not walk toward meaning. Meaning walks toward you when you become still. Start with this moment, with this breath, with the permission to feel tired without shame, to rest without earning it, to be still without purpose beyond the simple joy of existing. Start with the radical act of listening to your own heart instead of the 1,000 voices that tell you what it should be saying. Let your tiredness teach you what your energy has not been able to learn. Let it show you what matters and what does not, what serves your soul and what serves only the expectations of others. Let it guide you to the places in your life where you have been pouring water into broken vessels, where you have been planting seeds in barren ground, where you have been singing songs that are not your own. There will be those who do not understand your new rhythm, who mistake your depth for slowness, your wisdom for withdrawal. Let them wonder. Let them rush past you on their way to destinations they cannot name. You are learning to live from a different source, to move to a different music, to dance to the rhythm of your own becoming. The evening comes not as an ending, but as a gift. The winter arrives not as death, but as the earth's way of going inward, gathering strength for the spring that always follows. Your tiredness comes not as failure, but as your soul's way of calling you home to yourself. Trust this calling. Trust the wisdom of your weariness. Trust that in the space where your old life ends, your true life begins. Trust that the very thing you thought would break you is actually preparing to set you free. The seed trusts the darkness that surrounds it, knowing that only in breaking open will it find the light. The river trusts the pull that draws it toward the sea, knowing that only in surrendering its separate banks will it find its true vastness. And you, weary traveler, can trust the tiredness that asks you to lay down what was never yours to carry. This is not the end of your story. This is the moment when your real story begins. Not the story others wrote for you, but the one that has been waiting in the silence of your heart, patient as starlight, constant as the tide. When you stop fighting what is and start flowing with what wants to become, when you stop carrying water for others and learn to drink from your own well, when you stop trying to fit into a life too small for your soul and begin to expand into the vastness you truly are, then you will understand what your tiredness was trying to teach you all along. It was not teaching you to give up. It was teaching you to give in, not to what others want from you, but to what your deepest self wants for you. Not to defeat, but to a victory so complete that it requires no struggle, no effort, no proof. The dawn waits for no one but welcomes all who rise. Rise now, not in the way of forcing yourself forward, but in the way of finally allowing yourself to be. Rise in the way of the sun that knows its time has come, naturally, inevitably, beautifully. Rise in the way of the flower that opens, not because it must, but because it cannot help but share its beauty with the world. Your tiredness was never a wall. It was always a door. And now, finally, you have the key. If this spoke to your spirit, write in the comments, I am awakening now.